Hey there, Blazer fans, and welcome to episode 24 of The Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. Today we head back to the hardwood for another one of UAB's all-time greats, Mr. Stanley Stamp Jackson. Before I head into the episode, be sure to stick around for another segment of This Week in Blazer History. Thanks for listening. All right, Blazer fans, I've got my guest here for episode 24 of The Dragon's Den, a former guard for the men's basketball team from 1989 to 1993, Mr. Stanley Jackson. Stanley, how you doing tonight?
Doing great.
Well, it's awesome to have you on. I know a lot of the Blazer faithful still remember your playing days, especially playing alongside some of the greats, Elbert Rogers, Andy Kennedy, Corey Jackson, Willie Chapman, and the list goes on. But it's definitely great to have you on. You're somebody I've been wanting to have on for a while, so thank you for being on.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to think about UAB. It's been a long time.
So you're from Tuskegee, Alabama.
Well, actually, I was born in Tuskegee, but I was actually kind of grew up in Valley, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're from Valley,
Yeah.
basically. So it's kind of hard to go back. You don't have the 247 recruiting stuff that you see back, like you don't see it back then as you do today. So what were any schools looking at you coming out of high school, and if were any of them out of state, and was kind of staying in the state a motivating factor for you going to UAB?
Yeah, it was. Staying in the state was, a motivating factor. I was looking at Tulane and Western Kentucky, Alabama also, as a, not, they wasn't really recruiting me hard, but it's pretty much UAB, Tulane, or Western Kentucky for myself.
So fast forward into your college career, your very first game, you're playing at Kansas. What was that environment like for you as a freshman?
Yeah, it was surreal, but I was amazed. I wasn't afraid, and I was actually proud of myself for not being afraid in that atmosphere.
Your freshman year, UAB started the year 8-3 in non-conference play with a loss to Kansas, like I mentioned just a minute ago, BYU and Vanderbilt, but you also got some good wins over Auburn, Oregon, and Penn State, among others. But you guys did well in the conference play, and you earned a 1 seed in the Sun Belt tournament, but were upset in the conference semis by Charlotte. What do you remember from that game against Charlotte?
Yeah, Charlotte. I can just remember how difficult it was from the regular season and conference play. It's a whole different level. That's kind of like the beginning of March Madness. That conference level. So I think they had Henry Williams. I think was a guard there. Yeah, I can remember those always tough games. Yeah, that's been a long time ago, but yeah, I can still remember getting on the plane, traveling up there, getting ready for a tough game.
Okay.
Yeah.
One game from your regular season in your freshman year that really stuck out to me was a non-conference game in the middle of conference play against number 6 Arkansas in Birmingham. The score was pretty indicative of how fast-paced the game was. UAB lost 109-95. What was it like playing against that 40 minutes of hell style play against, with Nolan Richardson and the Arkansas Razorbacks?
It was, yeah, I think that's probably one of the most intense games up until that point in my career of playing against an opponent. I think after that, probably Cincinnati, they probably, might have been a tougher team, as far as defensive wise, pressure wise. But yeah, I can remember, that Arkansas game was very intense on a national scale too. Yeah, super intense. Those games were.
So UAB did earn an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament, facing blue blood UCLA. You guys lost by 12, but what did you feel you had learned from your first season going forward?
My first season, you know, uh, man, that's a long time ago. Like I said, but yeah, I can just remember just getting ready, being excited to prove ourselves, to be on a national scale, at UAB to get some recognition to kind of fight for that recognition in that market of all the teams.
Okay. So your sophomore season, UAB had kind of a roller coaster year. It didn't help that the fourth game of the year was against defending national champion number one UNLV. We don't have to go into the final score too much. It was a rout for the Running Rebels. But what do you remember against that? What do you remember from that game against UNLV?
I can remember, like, I think it might have been like garbage time. We was down a little bit, but I was playing well, and I got like a couple dunks. And I can remember having a dunk, backwards dunk, and looking at Tarkanian, he's kind of laughed at me, And I can remember like that game in particular for sure. I remember that. I played with J.R. Ryder with the Timberwolves, and I can remember talking about that coach, and just I can remember playing for Coach Bardo and him being on the same level as those great coaches when we played in those games against those teams. Kind of gave me confidence, to kind of play that we could play on the same level as some of those players. Me personally.
So UAB ended up finishing the regular season with a record of 18-11. You earned a 3 seed in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, but lost to Old Dominion 99-95, and then fell to Memphis on the road in the NIT 82-76. Kind of some unfinished business. You were losing some stars. How did you feel after your sophomore year?
Yeah, I felt like I was ready to follow in the footsteps of some of the great teams that Gene Bardo had. We had I think we was getting some great players, healthy, George Wilkerson, a bunch of other guys, and we were hoping to get runs like Steve Mitchell and all those other teams had in the Final Four, run to the Final Four. But again, I think those are NIT's years at UAB. But we made the best of what we could have, what we had, season that we had.
So your junior year, 91-92, UAB moved to the Great Midwest Conference. Like I said, teammates Andy Kennedy, Stan Rose, and Jack Kramer, some of those guys, they had departed. But guys like Elbert Rogers, Carter Long, Willie Chapman, all those guys stepped up along with you to help boost the team. This season also included the arrival of your cousin, Corey. One of my social media questions that I got was from Cedric Buchanan, one of my guests on the show and former UAB football player. He wanted to know what was it like playing with your cousin?
Yeah, that's I can remember Corey coming. First, I was kind of shocked and impressed that he was that good, because he made kind of leaps and bounds from one year to the next, and then at UAB, and then he started, for UAB, I think freshman year a couple times, and then I almost became like a sibling rivalry almost. I'm trying to outdo him a little. We were complimenting each other. Also, he was a point guard more, and it was actually kind of fun and pretty exciting to have a cousin or relative on the team.
That's awesome. So you guys finished the season in your junior year with a record of 20-9, including you guys had a 13-1 start, pretty strong. But in conference play, you guys went 4-6. That kind of tells you how strong the Great Midwest was back in those days. In the conference tournament, you guys fell to a familiar foe from the season before, the Memphis Tigers, a team that had already beaten y'all twice in the regular season that year. How tough was it to see you guys play them so tough but never get over the hump against them in back-to-back seasons?
Yeah, it was really, difficult. I can remember some of those losses, keep thinking next year, and then finally, ain't no more years, so that was a tough experience.
So you guys did earn a spot in the NIT facing Tennessee, who was led by 4-time All-SEC and future 2-time NBA All-Star Allen Houston. You guys fell 71-68. But what do you remember from that game?
Yeah, I remember Allen heating up for sure. I think they Tennessee was a tough team, tough basketball team that year. Obviously, everybody expected them to be in the NCAA, so I can remember being a tough game that we could have won. Playing on the same level, we were two teams that could have easily been in the NCAA tournament that year.
Well, you guys had a very good start the next year with 10-1, and you had some wins over Mississippi State and number 18 Tulane, a team that you mentioned you had recruited you. So, but then you guys lost 7 of the next 8 games. Some of those losses included South Carolina, Holy Cross, at Minnesota, UC Santa Barbara, and Marquette. One of those games was your best game as a Blazer. You had 32 points against South Carolina. What can you recall from that midseason slump?
Yeah, yeah, it was the same kind of cycle. I think we were, I don't know, I think it was a lot of injuries for sure. I know we had a lot of injuries, some of those years. That last year um, against South Carolina, yeah, it just a lot of those situations. We just one star player away, one any game, one streak, one slump, and then um, you can lose 5, 6 in a row, 7 in a row. So
Right after the slump, you guys, you did end the slump with a 50 to 47 win over Memphis, who was led by Penny Hardaway. So, what was it like going up against Penny?
yeah, you recognize he was at a different level. You know, that height and length. Yeah, but again, I mean, we didn't back down for any of those guys. UNLV, Arkansas, we played against a lot of the top teams, and you know, most of those teams were obviously they respected us, and so, but Penny was an individual that kind of carried that team.
So, the remainder of that season, you guys had a lot of up and down wins and losses, including a heartbreaker to number 9 Cincinnati. Not long after your win over Memphis, but that loss came on a Nick Van Exel buzzer beater at Bartow. You guys got back at the Bearcats just before the postseason on a 67-60 win. But what was it like playing against those Cincinnati squads that you mentioned were so tough?
Yeah, they was just fierce, and then we could hold like Nick Van Exel, we would hold him for like you know 2 for 20, but he was 1 for 10. He'll score like the biggest shot to win, to get him ahead. It was a lot of those games where we had excellent game plans, and but they just played so fierce. Those games were good battles.
What were your feelings about as Frank Haywood would call him, Bobby Huggy Bear Huggins?
Yeah, he was pretty crazy, So I can remember some of the things he would say to his players on the bench, on the court. Yeah, it was a big contrast from what we were used to hearing from Coach Bardo.
So you guys ended up losing in the first round of the Great Midwest Tournament to DePaul, but you earned a spot in the NIT facing none other than Alabama Crimson Tide. So what was kind of the lead up going to that game, the week of, and then what was the game like itself?
Well, I mean, all the players recognize that, that game, you know, out of all the games we played, no matter what tournament or whatever, people are gonna kind of remember us by. So that was we were all amped and excited to play for sure.
What was the game like? We there's still the video on YouTube and everything, so we see it sometimes. But from an in-person perspective, what was it like? On the court.
Yeah, it was almost like a high school rivalry, almost like it's like everybody kind of knew each other. We played the same summer leagues, and actually, yeah, it was a lot. First time playing each other. The story between UAB and Alabama. But actually, I actually saw James Hollywood Robinson we was on a virtual meeting. We both played for the Timberwolves at one point, and we were talking about UAB in the summer league. Al Jefferson, he's from Mississippi, also played for the Wolves. Um, but just talking about games in the past. That's one of the games that came up. As old players, you talk about certain games. That's one of those games that we talk about still. There was a player at Alabama, Brian Lancaster. He
Mhm.
was Mr. Basketball. He was one of the guys I looked up to also coming out of high school. We went to the same high school. He was like 2 years above me. So actually 3 years older than me. So yeah, everybody either go to Alabama, UAB, or Auburn. Kind of that's for bragging rights. That game, we still bragging about it.
So the run didn't end in Tuscaloosa. The following week, you got a win over Clemson, which was the first ACC team to come to Bartow. You got a win over Missouri State. So that meant you guys traveled to New York City to play in Madison Square Garden in the NIT Final Four. You guys lost to Georgetown, but you beat Providence in the third place game. Looking back on it, what can you say about that NIT Final Four run?
Yeah, I wish we had to beat Georgetown, but we were one of only three teams that ended the year with a win. We won the third place game, so I can say we kind of had some consolation in winning. That was a good trip, good experience. So
Oh, that's awesome. What did it feel like to play on the same court as the New York Knicks?
yeah, that was big. Then a lot of those, when you're that young, you don't really realize. Well, I didn't, like where you're playing and the history we're going. I can remember like going to at UAB, going to Hawaii, playing there, and then coach having to take us, making us go to the U.S. Arizona, whatever ship that's there, and like now you think about that. So those are all good experiences. Madison Square Garden and the pit in New Mexico and all the different arenas that we went to.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So, what are some other games from your time at UAB that you look back on from time to time that you remember well?
I can remember like I playing Auburn, first game, and I in my freshman year, I started that game. I think my family was there. I grew up kind of like in Auburn, right there in Valley, Chambers County. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games. I kind of remember, going down to South Alabama, man, playing in those games. Those was fun. So
Okay. You were a free agent selection by the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you got a shot in the NBA. You played minor league basketball here in the U.S. As well as many years overseas in Europe. What was pro basketball like for you?
it was great. Again, I guess we just talked about, just learning so much educational and then just, the networking and then making money, being able to develop a skill playing basketball and then also make some amazing business connections and just learning a lot from different cultures was an awesome experience.
Okay. So one of your teammates is now the head coach at UAB. What's it like seeing Andy Kennedy take over the program?
Well, yeah, he has a good record. Obviously, AK knows the game. SEC Coach of the Year, I think he was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I tune into UAB a lot when we about to upset someone. I can remember being with the Wolves, and I was working with them at one time, and in Minnesota somewhere, and UAB was playing against Fred Hoiberg, Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only person going for UAB. Oh my God, you talking about feeling good? I didn't care. That was good. And then also I can remember, like through my job networking in sales and fundraising, I was um, golfing with Tubby Smith, and
Ooh.
he didn't know I played at UAB, but I wore a UAB hat, and he was looking at me like, oh, he was upset. He was upset. So, but it's a lot of times I can be proud of UAB. I'm sure Andy Kennedy is gonna make some more of those games where everybody tune in from everywhere and watch those games.
I'm looking forward to it. So, what was it like playing for Coach Gene Bartow?
Yeah, I can just remember, man, him just being so like just fair to everybody, and just go above and beyond, for all of his players. I know, yeah, just he met people where they were. I mean, he came to my wedding anniversary. I mean, my wedding, well, my ex-wife now, but anyway, that's another story. But he came there, and he would. I can remember we would go to like a Jesse Jackson had like something at like a church, and here I am, right next to Gene Bartow at this political event, and then simple stuff like Larry, I think one of the astronauts coming. That's the kind of stuff I kind of remember. And then also conflicts, how he handled conflicts. That's, I mean, we could use those lessons a lot today for sure. A lot of conflicts I saw him resolve from players, and we stayed on the same team and win games. So it was awesome experience to play for like a Hall of Fame type coach like Gene Bartow.
So, how is life now? What do you do?
It was great. Like I said, I'm involved in some business consulting projects. You know, drawn from my experience from sales, with my time with the Wolves, but a lot of my time would be spent with. I got a 7-year-old who's just picked up the game. I've been recruited to kind of lead a group of kids and coaching them. So I'll be pretty busy, for sure, between work and back into basketball again. It's a different youth game now.
One of my social media questions, another one that I've got for you, is from another Blazer great, Mo Finley on Instagram. You can follow him at MoFin10. He asked, did you play against CCHS Milltown in high school? If so, who was tougher to guard and why, Michael Todd of Lafayette or Marshall Brisky of CCHS?
Wow. The second guy, it wouldn't be him because I barely can remember. It definitely Michael Todd. Michael Todd, I put him on a level as like Nick Van Exel, all those top guys at a certain level. I mean, that guy was, he was one of those best that could shoot it really nice. And then you think you're playing good D on him. By the end of the game, he's got 25 points in the box score. So,
and I've got one more question for you, Stan. It's a lighthearted question. It's something I ask all my guests just to kind of keep you on your toes. So you've played in many places across the world. Which location had the best cuisine, and what was the strangest thing you ate while living in another country?
Wow, the best cuisine. I would say I played in Seville, Spain. Really good, like the paella, different foods there. And I say the strangest would be Cyprus. I can remember like my neighbor, he had a boat and he would go and catch the octopus and he would take the octopus and just throw it down. Yeah, it would just eat like some weird stuff come out of the sea. The Greek people. So,
all right. Well, Stan, thank you so much for your time. I know the Blazer faithful are going to love to hear from you. It's been a while, but it's great to see that you're doing well. And thank you so much for your time as a Blazer.
You're welcome. Go Blazers.
Go Blazers. All right. I want to thank Stan for his time and the great legacy that he left from his playing days as a Blazer. I spent some of my spare time this week looking back at old highlights from his time at UAB, and it was really fun watching his quick athletic style of play against some of the best teams in the country. So thanks again, Stan, for joining us. Before I go, I'll dive into another This Week in Blazer History segment. All stats and info gathered by longtime UAB fan Steve Rutherford, who can be found on Twitter with the handle @MemphisBlazer. Got some birthday shout-outs and some notable moments in school history for this segment. First, the school history. Just got a few notable events here. July 19th, 1996. Seemed pretty topical given what's going on right now. A parade at UAB was held to kick off the Centennial Olympic Games in Birmingham. The West Field on UAB's campus was used as a practice site for the several soccer teams participating in matches played in Birmingham's Legion Field as part of the 1996 Centennial Olympic Games in Atlanta, Georgia. Many UAB employees also volunteered to help the city of Birmingham host the soccer matches. Another notable event here, July 23rd, 2002, Dr. Carol Garrison became president-elect of UAB by a unanimous vote of the University of Alabama Board of Trustees. Dr. Garrison was once a nurse in the University Hospital, attained a master's degree in nursing from UAB in 1976, and taught in the School of Nursing until 1978. And the last notable event that I have is from July of 2019. Conference USA announced its inaugural Hall of Fame class. In that class included 3 former UAB Blazers. This included coach and athletic director Gene Bartow, student athlete Deanna Jackson from women's basketball, and student athlete Graham McDowell of men's golf. On to the birthdays. Picking up where we left off, these are birthdays from July 19th through August 6th of next week. So here we go. July 19th, born 1958, Doug Owens. Doug played center for the Blazer basketball team in the early years of the program. Born 1978, Earl Ike, a forward for the men's basketball team in the late 90s. Also born in 1978, Chris Albritton. Like Earl Ike, Chris was a forward on the men's basketball team in the late 90s as well. Born in 1992, former baseball player Jeff Schalk. Jeff played for the Blazers from 2012 to 2015. He had a good career at UAB, being named on the Conference USA All-Tournament team in 2012 and Conference USA All-Freshman team in the same year. July 20th, born in 1956, Daryl Braden. Daryl played forward on the early basketball teams in the late 1970s. July 21st, born in 1991, former baseball player Ryan Prinzing. Happy 30th birthday, Ryan. Born in 1998, current UAB football running back Lucius Stanley, one of my personal favorite players on the team. July 22nd, born in 1965, a center on the men's basketball team from the mid to late 80s, Cedric Evans. Also July 22nd in 1991, former UAB football tight end Nolan Smith. Nolan played for the Blazers from 2010 to 2014. Also 1993, former UAB football guard Unique Crumbly. Unique played for the Blazers in 2013 and 2014 before the program shut down and then transferred to Albany State. July 23rd, born 1991, former UAB football offensive lineman Casey Ike. Ike played for the Blazers from 2010 to 2013 and started for 2 years in that stretch. Born in 1998, recent UAB softball player Ashton Clem. Ashton played infield for the Blazers from 2017 to 2020. Born 1976, former UAB football defensive back Anthony Blevins. Anthony is now the assistant linebackers coach and special teams assistant for the New York Giants. Happy 45th birthday, Anthony. July 25th, born in 1999, current UAB women's soccer defender Audria Wood. Happy 22nd birthday, Audria. July 26th, these next two need no introduction. Born in 1982, Ronell and Donnell Taylor. Two greats for the men's basketball program in the early 2000s, and of course, we all remember the blind pass against Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. Happy birthday, fellas. Born in 1996, former UAB football offensive lineman David Galton. David played for the Blazers from 2017 to 2019. July 27th, born in 1990, former UAB volleyball player Kirsten Gallagher. Born in 1996, Chris Coakley. You might have seen I gave him a birthday shout-out on my social pages the other day. Chris is one of the recent greats from the men's basketball team, and he's currently playing basketball overseas. Happy birthday again, Chris. July 28th, born in 1997, former UAB football wide receiver Alec Marsh. Born in 1995, former UAB football defensive back Jordan Petty. Also born in 1995, another former defensive back Broderick Thomas. Born in 1992, former UAB football wide receiver DeKendre Adams. July 29th, born in 1975, Antonio Jackson. Antonio played forward for the men's basketball team in the late 90s after transferring from Wake Forest. Born in 1995, recent UAB football safety Will Dawkins. Will came to UAB as a transfer from Indiana and played for the Blazers from 2017 to 2019. July 30th, born in 1979, former UAB golfer and now current golf pro Graham McDowell. Happy birthday, Graham. Now on to August. Born in 1959, Tim Almquist. Tim was another forward from those early men's basketball teams. Happy birthday, Tim. August 2nd, born in 1983, Win Makubu. Win was a really solid forward for the men's basketball team from 2005 to 2007 after transferring from Arkansas. Also, August 2nd, 1988, Jamar Sanders was born. Jamar played basketball for the Blazers from 2009 to 2011 and was one of the best shooters UAB had on that regular season championship team. Happy birthday, Jamar. And born 1981, another UAB all-time great, Morris Mo Finley, a former guest on the show and a great from the early 2000s who we all remember especially for that game-winning shot against Kentucky in 2004. Happy birthday, Big Mo. And August 3rd, born 1994, a recent UAB football defensive lineman and one of the grittiest players I've seen in the green and gold, Mr. Garrett Marino. Happy birthday, Garrett. And that's going to do it for This Week in Blazer History in episode 24 of The Dragon's Den. I hope you all enjoyed it. Be sure to check out my social pages at Dragon's Den EFEL on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest UAB news and episode announcements. Good night, and go Blazers.